Hello everyone, it's me Ahnaf and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can Dockerize a Flask API and then use it with React. So over here, I have a really simple API. As you can see, we have languages. Now we have Python, Java, TypeScript, JavaScript, and some cool looking languages. And we have a route, a home route, which just sends some JSON called status online, and then we have a get languages endpoint which returns us all of the languages here. Now if we go to this endpoint, if I refresh, you're gonna see this, and now if I go to languages, you're going to see these programming languages, and over here I have a really basic React app. Like, I didn't do anything, I just used create React app and it's the default app. I haven't even touched this yet. So yeah, let's see how we can Dockerize this API. Now, the first thing that I want to do is I won't be touching the front end. I want to integrate PostgreSQL with this. So let's start off by just making a simple Docker file and then deploying this on Docker. So we stop this, and now let's get started with this. So I want to have a requirements.txt file, and in the requirements.txt file I'm going to have Flask, and also I'm going to have Unicorn. Now I'm going to tell you why I'm using Unicorn. So you see, since we're making this like for production use, we don't want to use Flask's development server. As you can see over here, when you start Flask, it says this is a development server, do not use it in a production deployment. That's why we're going to be using Unicorn. Now we're going to be using Unicorn as it's like a really good server for frameworks like Django and Flask. So yeah, let's get started with it. So first, I want a Docker file. Now in the Docker file, I will be using the Python 3.8 image. Now there's a reason why I'm not using the Alpine image, and if you have ever used Docker before, you might know why people use the Alpine image. Alpine images, in most cases, they are really small in size and lightweight. They basically have the minimal stuff you need for any language or software that you're using the image for. But the issue with Python is, in Docker, is that Alpine images for Python are really big and they're sort of slow. So that's why I would rather recommend you use the slim version or just the normal version. So since I don't have the slim version cached on my computer, I'm just going to be using the normal version. So let's do from Python 3.8. Now I don't want to go with 3.10. 3.8 is my stable version. It's my cup of tea. So we have the image selected, and now let's make a working directory /app. This is going to be our working directory. And now what I want to do is I want to actually copy the /requirements.txt. So we are copying the requirements.txt file from here and pasting it to the container /app folder. And now let's run pip3 install -r requirements.txt. After that, we're going to copy all of the code, all the app.py files and stuff from the host machine to the container. And I also want to expose the port 5000 because that's where I'm going to run the Flask server. And now we can have our entry point. So since we're going to be using Unicorn, we're going to put the cmd unicorn, and the command, it's going to bind to 0.0.0.0:5000. So it's going to bind to the containers port 5000, and it'll use the app class, or sorry, the app variable or object from the app.py file. So I hope you understand how this works, and if you don't understand how Unicorn works, or if you've never used it before, trust me, it's really awesome, and I'm going to leave a link in the description to Unicorn's documentation. So I have this right here, and let's try to build this image. So let's actually do docker build -t and call it Flask app, or let's just call it Flask tutorial, and let's build this image. Right, so this image has been built, and now let's run this image. So let's do docker run -p, and I want to map this to port 80 of my computer. I want to map the port 5000 of this container to port 80. So that means if I visit localhost port 80 on my computer, I can access the port 5000. And then let's do Flask tutorial. Was that the name of our container? Yes, that was the name of our container. And now you see it shows that Unicorn has started. So if you go to Google Chrome or your browser, and right now it's on port 5000, but if I go just on localhost, you see it shows status online. And if I check my Wobblizer, it shows that the server is Unicorn. Right now this is sort of cached, so yeah, don't pay any heed to this. Don't pay any heed to this. If I go to network and refresh, you see that the server header is Unicorn. That means our Unicorn server is now working. If we go to /languages, you should be able to see this. You see it shows the Python, Java, TypeScript. For some reason it took really long to load. I don't know why. But yeah, the API is working right now with Docker. And what I want to do now is to connect this with PostgreSQL. Alright, so to get started with PostgreSQL, I need to actually set up a Docker Compose. And if you don't know how to use Docker Compose, I'm going to leave a link to a tutorial. That tutorial is not from my channel, but you guys will find that helpful. So in our Docker Compose, we're going to specify a version, because it's always good to specify a version. I'm going to use version 3. And now let's specify all of our services. So first, our service would be app. That's our Flask app. Let's just call it backend. Or let's just call it Flask app. Okay, and the build would be dot, because I'm using this Docker file in the current directory. Restart always. So restart will basically just restart the application or container whenever it crashes or stops. And right now let's just do ports. And this will be mapped to 5000. So as I've said before, it's port 5000 on the container and port 80 in our host machine. And the container name would be Flask app. How about that? Okay, so we have this, and now let's use PostgreSQL. So I'll create another service called Postgres, and the image I want to use Postgres 11. I want to use Postgres 11 Alpine. That is a really good image. And now we also want this to be restarting always, and I want to set a volume for this. So volumes would be .postgres, so, or you can just have it .postgres data. So basically what a volume does is, like, when you're actually storing some data in your container, you might, like, stop or restart the container, so any data inside the container might get deleted, and that's why we have volumes. So it'll create a folder here, and anything inside that folder would be available in the Docker container at a specific directory. So I want all of Postgres's data to be available in our volume. So all of PostgreSQL's data stored in this directory would be available in this directory. And now let's put a container name. So container name is going to be Flask Postgres. Now, Postgres requires environment variables, as far as I know. So it needs Postgres DB. That's going to be the name of our Postgres database. Let's call it Flask app. And if I remember correctly, it requires a Postgres. Is that pass? It's probably password. And the Postgres password, I want to set this to an environment variable, Postgres pass, and let's create a .env file. .env. So Docker Compose basically takes your .env file, and then it stores like whatever values you have there in the environment variable. So I can just use it like this, and I can have a Postgres pass called PocChamp. Let's have this here. And for the Postgres DB, we can also make another one. Postgres DB, let's call it Flask app, and let's also set it like this. Great. Now for the So now we want to access the database from Flask. So to do that, we also need the same environment variables, and I also need to link this Flask app to our Postgres. So if you don't link it, you won't be actually able to access this Postgres database container from your Flask app container. Now for that, we use links. So links, and then it's going to be Postgres. That way I can actually just type the name of the service, and then I can discover this container and then use it. So yeah, we have this, and I also want to do depends on Postgres. And that way it's gonna be better. Like if Postgres has any issues, this won't work. So yeah, we're gonna have them like this, and yeah, so we have Postgres set up. Now let's work on actually work on some of the backend. It's our Flask app. And first I want to actually have Flask Sql Alchemy. Now if you don't know what Flask Sql Alchemy is, it's an ORM for SQL, especially for Flask. Sql Alchemy. Okay, yeah. And now let me import from Flask Sql Alchemy, import SQL Alchemy. Okay, great. And I want to actually import OS, because you see we have these environment variables here, like in the container. I want to use the OS module to actually access these. So yeah, let's make an app.config, and first we need a secret key, because you need this for like sessions and stuff. Let's say PogChamp secret. Okay, and then we also need a SQL Alchemy database URI, I think. SQL Alchemy database URI, and this would be a string. Oh, it's going to be an F string because we're going to put some stuff here. And this is the Postgres database URI format. So this is going to be the user. User is always Postgres, and I wanted the password to be, what is our environ? Postgres pass, and the it's going to be the name of the host name where it's hosted at. Since we're using Docker Compose and this is linked to it, I don't need to find out the IP of this container. I just use the name of this container and just put that in here. And then let's do 5432 / and this is going to be our DB. So we can do os.environ Postgres DB. Did I mess something up? Oh yeah, it should be like this. Great. Now we have this here. I also want to actually SQL Alchemy. It's not necessary, but SQL Alchemy sometimes gives me issues with this. It's the SQL Alchemy track modifications, I think. Track modifications false. Now this shows a warning if I set that to true. So yeah. And now let's make a database interface. So let's do SDB is going to be SQL Alchemy. It takes the app in here. And now we can make a model. So for the model, let's just do something like really simple. Class language. It's going to take db.model. And then we can have an ID, which is going to be db.column. db.integer. This is going to be just a primary key. Primary key equals to true. Great. And let's have a name. That's going to be db.column, db.string. Okay, great. So we have this, and I want to do db.createAll. Every time the server starts, I want to do db.createAll. Great. So now we have this, and let's try to actually build the containers and see what happens here. Yeah. So we can just do docker compose up --build -d so that it's detached. And let's just see how long it takes to run. Right, great. So let's take a look at the logs. Flask app. As you can see, it gives you an error here. It says key error for Postgres pass. Oh, I see the issue here. It should be password. Let's do docker compose down. So the issue was, you see, like, I actually put this here instead of this. That was the issue. Alright, great. Now we can see the logs for Flask app. And as you can see, it also gives us another error. And that is, I forgot to actually install the Postgres drivers. Okay, those are required. Okay, so I made a few mistakes, and yeah, this is the correct database URI. It should be PostgreSQL : Postgres : OS environment. Like, you get the point. Also, the link for the code will be in the description, so you can actually use this on your own. Because I actually made tons of silly mistakes. For example, I forgot to put QL. I put a $sign here, and then I also forgot to, you know, put the correct key in here. So yeah. So let's actually set this to down and restart this. And let's see the logs now. It says that this is working. Now, one thing with Postgres and Docker, one problem with Postgres, Flask, and Docker is that the first time you start Flask and Postgres for the first time, Flask would not be able to connect to Postgres because Postgres has not been initialized, so it's doing all the startup stuff, and Flask has already started and is trying to connect to the database, but it won't be able to since the database hasn't started yet. So yeah, but after the first time, it will work. So yeah, that is not a problem here. And yeah, so we have this, and we have this table called language. So let's actually, you know, query some languages. So if we go to the browser, if we go to languages, right now, it should not return anything. Right, so for some reason, it was taking a while for it to load, but yeah. So as you can see, I returned nothing here, but this time, let's actually return some languages. So over here, let's actually query the languages. So languages equals to language.query.o. And we can just return some JSON data, so JSONify. And we can have some data, and then we can do something like this here. We can have an array, and then we can loop over. Let's do a list comprehension here. So we can do for language, or let's do lang in languages. We can have this, and we can have name, and it's going to be lang.name. So if you don't know how this works, let me actually show you python-m // Right. Okay, so what this is showing here is it's just like looping over every language in the language list. It gets this language object, and it's accessing the name and setting it in an object here. We have this, and yeah, now we can actually stop this and restart this again. So let's restart this. Now if you go here, it shows data and there's nothing in it because we have not added any data yet. Now, for the sake of this tutorial, I want to actually use Flask admin, which is like an admin interface for Flask. And by default, Flask admin has no authentication. And I won't be adding any authentication in this video, but Flask admin has made it really, really easy for you to be able to add your own authentication methods. And yeah, I also have a blog tutorial series using Flask, and that tutorial series shows you how you can add custom authentication to the Flask admin dashboard. So right now, let's just use a really, really simple Flask admin view. So the first thing I need to do is actually get Flask admin. So I have it installed already on my computer, but not on my Docker container. So yeah, let's actually do from Flask admin import admin, and then we also need from Flask admin.contrib.sqla. So it got some default SQL Alchemy stuff, model view. So we got to import model view from here. And then we also need we want a custom theme for this. So let's do app.config Flask. Oh, this is gonna be Flask admin swatch, and this would be the cerulean theme. I forgot how to spell that. Is this the correct one? I think so. But yeah, we have this here. Okay, and let's actually make a thing here. So let's make an admin view. So admin equals to admin. This is going to take our app. Name will be programming languages app, and then the template mode would be Bootstrap 3. I'm not sure if this supports Bootstrap 4 yet, because I have always been using Bootstrap 3 for Flask admin. So yeah, and then we're going to add a view. So admin dot add view. This would be a model view, and this would take the language, and then db.session is going to take the database session from here. Okay, so now we can just take down our Docker container, and then we can restart it again. All right, so this is running. We can take a look at the logs here. And yeah, it's working perfectly, but it's giving error here. It's trying to connect. And yeah, sometimes it has this issue here. You can take a look at the Flask Postgres thing, and it says database is skipping initialization. One thing we can add here is time.sleep. So we can do import time, and then we can just try time.sleep 5. That's how I used to manage everything. So we can take this one down, and then we can start this again. Great. Now let's take a look at the Flask app, and yeah, you see it's now working perfectly. So basically what this does is Postgres takes some time to actually start up the app, and we wait for 5 seconds, and yeah, now it doesn't have any issues. So right after we refresh, you see you have no data. Now if you go to admin, you're going to see a cool looking admin interface. Yeah, and as you can see over here, let me actually reduce the size a bit. Okay, yeah, this looks okay. Okay, so you see this over here. We can go to language. So this is basically what Flask admin does for us. It this basically makes our life really easier. Now for some reason, like, I tried this just yesterday, it wasn't taking so long, but today it's actually taken really long. Okay, so right now we don't actually have anything here, but we can just create something. Like, we can create a programming language. Let's just call it Python. We can save and add another. We can call it Java, because that's my second favorite programming language. And then we can have TypeScript. And yeah, I guess, yeah, that's probably enough. We have 3 languages. And I've actually go to the homepage. Sorry, not the homepage. If you go to the languages page, you see we have 3 languages over here: Python, Java, and TypeScript. So this is basically how you make the backend. And now I want to actually use this on the front end. So yeah, let's see what happens. Right, so this is my front-end code. I'm just going to quit all of my backend code, and we can go to our front end. We can delete all of the useless stuff. Example, we might need the this CSS file. Let's remove the logo.svg. Yeah, let's just remove the logo.svg, and then report web vitals, set up tests. We don't need these. And now we have the front end here. So one thing I can do right now is remove these stuff here, and I can also remove the svg here. No need for this. And then I can just type Flask Docker React with Flask API on Docker. And now we can just do yarn start or npm start depending on the package manager you're using. And let me have to refresh this. It says report web vitals can't be found. Okay, no problem. I can remove this here. And this. Cannot find module. Okay, great. So it now shows React with Flask API on Docker. Great. We can go to the app.css, and it's display flex, line item center. I don't think we need a line item center, and flex direction column. I don't need any of the flexbox stuff. Yeah, it's really not required for me. Although I can have this display flex here. Yeah, this flex is important. Justify content center. Yeah, that was the thing I really didn't need. So we have this over here, and now I want to actually make an API request for this. We have our app.js component, and I want to import use state. So we can do import use state, use effect from React. Now these are just simple React hooks. So we can have this, and now we can also have, you know, just a UL and LI. So we can have a UL. I just want to see how it looks. UL, LI, we can have Python, and we can refresh this. And app is not required here. Oh, sorry. So it's showing this over here, and I don't want that. I want this to be over here. Yeah, okay, great. So right now this is way over here. Okay, so after struggling a lot with the CSS, I think this looks great. So yeah, we can now have this, and I want to create a state variable now. So const, and this is going to be languages, set languages, and this will be use state. Okay, and this will not have anything yet. Let's just have it an empty array, or maybe undefined, or just null. Yeah, it takes me a while to actually choose my variables. Okay, so now we can actually have this part here where if you have languages, then we return this, else we return nothing. Okay, so yeah, this is where all the fun stuff works. So now, right now we don't have any languages, and if we do have a language, it's called Python. Yeah, so we have this over here. And now let's have a use effect. So we can have use effect, and we can have this here. Let's set it like this, and we can have fetch. So we can do HTTP localhost, and then do /languages. We can have a .then. We can have response, and then we can just return response.json. And then we can have .then. We can have data. We can just have JSON. And then we can just work on this. So we can just do set languages JSON. Oh, sorry, it's going to be JSON.data because yeah, it's going to be JSON.data because on our Flask side we actually return this data over here. And if we do this with React, right now we don't have anything here. If languages do work, I'm just going to set this to undefined. Right now, if you actually go over here, you're going to see this issue here. This is a course issue. So yeah, this is a problem here, and basically just giving you like cross origin requests are not working, the course issue here, and that's an issue on Flask side. So we can actually fix this really quickly. Now we need to go to the requirements.txt, and we need to add another library called Flask course. And in our app.py file, we're going to import that. So from Flask course, import course cross origin. Now I don't have this installed on my computer. I'll use this on my Docker container, but yeah, that's not gonna be a problem. And we can do course, and it's going to be course, and it's gonna take our app. And now we also need to have another config, and this config will be course headers, and this will actually check the content type. So content type, so this is the header that will be used here. And yeah, and for our this endpoint, we're going to use at cross origin, so we can actually specify what specific endpoints we want to be, like we want to have course enabled for. We can go to our PowerShell here, and we can stop all of the containers, and we can build them again. This time course should work. Right, and now we can check the Flask app logs. It's working right now, and as you can see, for some reason this is showing up, but it does say that like we're not having any issues here, so that means it is working. So we can just do a console.log languages. Okay, yeah, so it does receive all of those languages, which is great. Okay, so yeah, we have that, and now we can run a map here. So you can do languages.map, and then we can take the lang and we can just return an li with the lang.name. Okay, and yeah, we have this. It does say that each child in the list should have a unique key prop, but right now I really don't want to, you know, have a key here, or at least I can have an index, but this doesn't give the problem here. Right, so I forgot how to fix that, but that's completely fine. We can also have languages here. Okay, oh god. Okay, yeah, I forgot that this is actually an issue here. That's completely fine. Yeah, so we have these languages here. So if we go to our admin page, we go to the language page, and if we add something else, maybe we can add something like Rust. Yeah, into Rust, save and add another. Okay, we'll go to the list. Okay, we have 2 Rusts here. Not good. Okay, great. So yeah, now we can actually refresh this, and it does actually take a while for this to load for some reason over on my computer. Yeah, okay, as you can see, now it also shows Rust over here, which is awesome. And if you actually delete one of these from here, it's going to disappear from here. Let's actually delete Python from here. Maybe let's just delete TypeScript or Java or Rust. Let's delete Java, because yes. Okay, yeah, great. Now if you refresh, you see we have Python, TypeScript, Rust, but no Java. So that's basically how you do it with Flask, Docker, and React. That's it, guys. I've showed you how you can make a React application, just this really simple React application with a Flask API that's running on Docker. And if you enjoyed this video, or if you found this helpful, please subscribe to my channel and like this video. It really helps me out a lot for the amount of work I put into this video. And yeah, anyways, have a good day, everyone. Bye.